see everybody. And look who's in the house. Gigi's back. I think Walt has our invocation.
I do.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to live in this great country where we come together in fellowship and love with a common thing of service above self. Thank you for the friendships that we forge in this group and the good that we do in the community. Bless this food and made it nourish our bodies. Just let me pray on it. Please stand.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for things say and do.
It is the truth, which is very all concerned, love that friendships will be done for all.
Well, we got 27 Rotarians here this morning.
Wow. Good.
Great to see Grandpappy back. There you are, Buster. And no guests.
Wow. Now we need to start bringing some guests in here. Let's get on it. It's November. I'll give you a prize if you bring guests next week. Where is Rick? You have any birthdays?
Yes, I do. Good morning, Gate City. Right.
Good morning.
Good morning, Gate City.
Good morning.
There we go, that's a lot better. Happy birthday to us, right? We got a few anniversaries and a birthday actually celebrate as well. We're doing a couple of weeks because I'm behind. So you got to kind of do. Club anniversaries, we have David Graves.
David Graves is joined the downtown, Greensboro Downtown Club.
That's right. Okay. All right. And do we have Howard Davis?
Howard Riggers has joined the downtown club.
Well, let me just start this all over again.
Rick.
What happens when you go away? Okay, how about one last one, Dale Meltzer.
You're looking in the wrong database.
I'll just be sitting down. Oh, man, I tell you what, well, happy birthday to your wife. What's your wife's name? What's her name? Yeah, Scarlett. Good boy, you had to think about it there for a second.
No, I want to make sure I do what you like.
Good save there. All right, happy birthday, Scarlett. Got one right this day. All right, let's see here. And a birthday from back last week, none other than our past president, Dr. Guy. He had a birthday on the 18th. That's right. Yeah. So happy birthday, Guy. And I'm just going to sing. And let's see, wedding anniversaries. Is Buster Lewis still a member of this? Buster.
That's what I came back to find out.
Yeah, at least it's there for you to find out about, buddy. All right. And let's see.
Anyway, in case you're interested, it's 42 years.
You guys, I'm not gonna say anything about him because it's not about jealousy. It's great but we're not going to talk about that. All right. And we have his Brad Guy with us today.
Brad's out of town and his backup back.
Okay. It was just our weekly heads up. His wife's got a birthday next week, so they just hope he remembers that do a chance to give a heads up. So that's my somewhat convoluted report for this morning, Madam President, and I'll sit down and say.
We're going to audit your report next week before you give it. He is out of town or couldn't come this morning, so he said, is it okay if we don't have football pool this week? I said, I guess it'll have to be. No football pool. And I think you may have seen an email from Taylor Coble, Charlotte, or Michelle Bardsley on another book drive for Cone Elementary. And I thought Taylor was going to be here this morning to talk to you about it, but maybe she'll come next week. And Danielle overslept this morning. I hear they had a great 5:05 yesterday. And just to remind everybody, Pig Stock is next Saturday.
Yep, November 6th.
The 6th. And we have an awesome cook team. And if you want to order tickets through the club and be billed, let me know today because I have to turn the order in to Cookie. And we'll just bill you for it. And our District Governor, Chris Justice, will be here on Thursday, November the 11th. And so we will ask everyone to attend so that we can have a great presentation of Gay City that day. So I will invite you again. And happy dollars.
Buster's here. You can hear about
Good. I'll get off that easy.
Thomas. So I got to go spend 4 days with my daughter at the University of Kentucky this past weekend. We got to see Jason Aldean and we're having a really good time. And we went to Keeneland Racetrack. And I've never been to a horse race in my life, so I know nothing about it. And I told my daughter the very first race that started while I was there, I really like the looks of this one horse. I said, go put $50 on this horse to win. She's like, you're out of your mind, $50, you're crazy. I said, just take the $50 and go put it on me to win. I'm not gonna stand here and bet all day. I just like this horse. So she walks off. She comes back with a beer and my change, and she says, I just saved you some money. He wins. $600 if she'd have put the bet on. I said, thanks a lot. You better listen to your dad from now on.
Dr. Wall.
She would have won.
Hey, Tommy, that reminds me about my wife took so much shop bags. She said, I'm not gonna believe how much money I saved. Oh, it's coming. But you know, that's the thing. Now I am on a fixed income. I retired as of 2 weeks ago. Today, I came to the meeting, went to work, and then went to closing. Gonna get a happy dollar last week, but last week didn't work out. So here I am. I'm done. I'm leaving here and going to the golf course.
Wow. I would have sent this out in an email, but I got asked, anybody that has or knows somebody that is like a master at Excel, give me a call. I'm working on a project and I can't get something to work and I can't find an answer to it. So you would. Really?
I just want to share an experience I had on some trip. I just came back 2 weeks ago from France, and it was my first time going to Normandy on the Omaha Beach and visiting the American Cemetery, over 9,000 graves. And it was just a wonderful, sobering experience to me on that beach and realizing what those kids have to face with the German guns, you know, facing them and getting on those little boats. So I would encourage everyone who hasn't been there to make that journey. It's really something to experience.
I wasn't here last week. I guess that I missed much.
Good morning.
I did go to New Orleans. My uncle passed away, and this is not a sad dollar. He was in his late 80s. He had had a great life. It's kind of a celebration, but the happy dollar is we don't live in New Orleans.
because it's not in the news anymore, but this Hurricane Ida destroyed New Orleans. So I had the opportunity, my brother and sister live out in the levee system. I had the opportunity to drive around and look at it. And the happy is, we don't have natural disasters like hurricanes that hit us in Greensboro. This is one of the best places. I don't know if you've lived many places like that, but this is one of the best places in this country to live. No tornadoes, no wildfires, no earthquakes, no hurricanes. Do I need to keep going?
I have a dog here.
Yeah. Yay, Greensboro.
But we will rebuild. Well, it's Rick, here, $2. First off, Rick knows we do have a lot of drama. We do have a lot of drama in Greensboro, it's not just quick, so we'll say that. So you did get those three right in a row, amazing. But my happy dollar was for this satellite alternative timeframe or alternative meeting. But we had 17 people at a 5:05 last night at Cal. It was fantastic. That club is still doing very well. They lost some members too. They're going to press it at some sort of an alternative timeframe arrangement, which we thought was unusual. But anyway, that's what that is. But we're doing quite well at the satellite club. So come see us.
I'll go, we trust. I think we will. It's not that it don't test people. Not a happy dollar because I've lost my oldest sister, but it's a happy dollar because I guess I'm my wonderful person, and she was like my second mom, and I'm happy to have her in my life. And it ought to be a happy $1 million, but we can't do that. So
You can take that.
I won't do that. But anyway, my sister Janice, and just a wonderful person. Yeah. Thank you.
It's taking me forever.
Here's my $2 happy, Steve.
All right. Yeah, don't be getting up. Stephen Glenn.
Oh, yes.
Usually I can pay for everything, but you don't have to pay to give people name badge. Not even I'm that bad. Lisa said. Lisa said.
So we were talking this morning about inflation. Grandpappy always used to say inflation is paying $15 for a $10 haircut that you used to get for $5 when you had hair.
Thank you.
Really excited to finally get to do this program. Ron's been very gracious. I've moved him around, I don't know how many different times. Last week, we we're all ready to do this. And we come up here and there's nobody here. Everything's empty, so Brian's been a member of KC since 2018, but I believe he was a member previous to that, took a year on something, but he went to App State and spent 16 years in the healthcare development field, where he developed a great passion for service-based management. So he's now working in his family business. I think most people know Brian, and he's going to do a program called the Privilege of Service.
Thank you, Tom. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Actually, a few minutes before walking up here, I looked around the room. I believe I've met everybody. If I have not, my name is Brian, and I work for Chickfila. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so I can see the screen. But yeah, as Tom mentioned, kind of a brief history. Grew up in Greensboro, was born in Georgia, but arrived in the early 80s. And, spent time in Chick-fil-A growing up in the business, but then spent some time in the healthcare world as well. I came back a few years ago. This presentation actually originated in the store one day. I was watching the team, watching the staff, looking at just kind of the workflow and hearing some complaints. People always wanted to do more, which is great, but kind of being present in the moment and talking about kind of the mindset of, I know in the 7 Habits book, get to versus have to. And so I was like, what if we flip the script a little bit? And, people talk about wanting to succeed. What about serving? And what if we consider it a privilege to serve every day our guests, our teams, just in everything we do? And so began to really explore that more with when I was in the catering world with Chick-fil-A, and now overseeing a restaurant. But just talking to my teams to say, hey, when we're present in the moment, it is a privilege to serve. Day in, day out, we have the opportunity and a privilege to serve people. So that's where the title originated from. I'll kind of walk through our family history and a few things we've learned over the past few years. And I wish I had these profound, charts and numbers and all these things, but a lot of it is just simply service and mindset. And we have had incredible growth over the years, but going back to the foundation of service and our people. And I'll talk a little more about it. So, oh, I'm sorry, I have to try this. I cannot talk about Chick-fil-A without talking about Truett. The man, the myth, the legends began in the Dwarf House Grill in Hapeville, Georgia. And as the story goes, he had some folks approach him he was friends with from the airlines. And they had pieces of chicken that they were working to put in the boxes for the planes. And they had these oversized pieces of chicken breasts. And they said, what are we going to do with these? And so Truett took it upon himself to start playing around with recipe, playing around with what his grandmother had taught him and how to cook. And through the course of time, and what I love is that he kept engaging his guests. He said, what do you think? What do you think? Is this good? Is this perfect? Is this excellent? And over the course of time, he developed this chicken sandwich. And as the story also goes, at first, he allowed outlets in the Atlanta area to serve this chicken sandwich. Problem was they didn't take it seriously as Truett did. So there's from what I understand, there's a book in the about the Atlanta stadium talking about the awful chicken sandwiches that were served in the stadium. That was the Chick-fil-A sandwich at first. And Truett hears about this, says, okay, if we're gonna do this right, we've got to take care of it ourselves. And so if we're gonna serve this with excellence, let's kind of regroup. And there are a lot of ways you see this today in the company as a whole, and just ensuring that whether it's excellence in our product, excellence in our teams, or just the overall restaurant, Chick-fil-A wants to ensure it's done well and we serve our guests well. And so you do see a lot of control mechanisms to ensure that the product is consistent. But this is where it started, right here at this grill. And I had the opportunity to meet Truett over the course of years. He came to Greensboro a few times, and it was amazing watching this man who had, he was a wealthy man. He could do whatever he wanted to with his money, and he would, go take orphans and buy them clothing, buy them whatever they wanted. And he chose to spend his money serving versus, just amassing wealth and just spending it on himself. So I talk a lot about Truett to say, in these foundations of his character, I got to watch these happen. And I always talk about the pillars of him, that excellence. One of his biggest quotes was, why not your best? And I still to this day tell my teams this, a 15, 16-year-old starting out in Chick-fil-A, I said, you have the choice to give your best every day. You can wake up and say, why not my best? There's nothing stopping me. Why can I not go in, whether it's school or my family or work, and say, why can't I give my best today? Do excellence in all we do. Integrity, who your character is, what you are when nobody's looking. And, are you a person of your word? And having this in work and our families and whatever we're doing, just being a person of integrity. You all see okay? Okay. Generosity. We talk a lot about giving until it hurts. It's easy to say, well, I'll give a $1 here, $1 there, happy dollars here and there. But, giving until it hurts, really, if we have been given time, talent, and treasure, why not giving until it's inconvenient? And just being generous of what we've been given in our lives and the opportunities we have to serve every day in that generosity. And then loyalty. My parents talk about when they were interviewing with Truett, coming on in the early 80s, Truett considered the operators and the restaurants a business marriage. And my mom said that's all it took for her to say, let's roll with this. And so my dad and her both, in the early 80s started out in 1981 in Carterville, Tennessee. But, another story I've heard, my uncle was also in Chick-fil-A selection for years. And he talks about in the support center one day, Truett corners him. The founder of the company gets up in his face and says, Cleve, you have to take absolute certainty in who you select. Because once you select somebody, you're stuck with them. And Cleve says this just in his mind to that day, it made him take it so much more seriously to say, when you partner with somebody and you're showing your loyalty to them, be careful who you're in partnership with. Take extreme caution in who you are allowing the brand to be partnered with. And we still to this day say, yes, we have staffing issues to this day. There are times when our drive-through or curbside, it's tough because of staffing, but we also do not just want to go, here's a uniform to everybody. We want to make sure that brand continues on and takes serious about our selection and who we are loyal to, but also being loyal to those who are serving us. I love showing this picture. This is Greenbrier Mall, the first Chick-fil-A. There are 6 seats. And in our dining rooms, if I had 6 seats, I would have anarchy every day. But this is where it originated. It was a basic menu. When we came on in the 80s, we did not have nuggets. We had no waffle fries, just basic sandwiches, shoestring fries, and the carrot raisin salad, and all those old school items. But that's where it originated. And I still think it's funny. Sometimes people come to the drive-thru and go, "Yeah, I need a chicken salad sandwich." I'm like, "I would love to give you that. It's been like 5 years since I served it." And they're like, "I just got it." I'm like, but anyway, this is where it started, and also Truett had to convince the mall to allow him to be in. Apparently, the mall didn't have food courts at that point in time, and he had to convince them, "Let me put a Chick-fil-A in this mall, and let's see how it goes." And the food courts began. But I just think about the fact that now, you look in the malls that still exist, and they still want that Chick-fil-A in the mall. But Truett had to go to them and almost sell this concept of a Chick-fil-A in the mall. Chick-fil-A looks a lot different these days. They're nationwide, in Toronto, in Canada, and just ever expanding. But these are the new concepts. The new one at Brassfield, we're looking at mid to late December opening, and it is going to look just as nice and just as new as these. But we're just excited about the fact that nobody, in the late 90s, when our original Brassfield building was built, they said, it'll do okay. Greensboro's kind of growing this way. We'll kind of see what happens. And now we look back and we're like, we got to get the heck out of this building. So for all of you who have come through our drive-thru in the past few years, I'm sorry, but I promise we're trying. This is our story. This is what the 80s were like in Chick-fil-A. Short shorts, homemade t-shirts, hanging out with Truett. It was just a very family-oriented, still family-oriented, but it's amazing how, Truett visited the stores. Jimmy Collins, who was the president at that point in time, he had an infamous spoon, and he would go around to the restaurants. He kept it in his pocket, and if he tasted the product and it was not up to specs, gone, thrown away. And the operator had to have a lot of questions of why is our product not being served well. And so they were very serious about specifications, about quality, about excellence. And we say if there was no Truett and Jimmy, there'd be no Chick-fil-A, because Truett was more on the people side, but Jimmy was all about that quality control. And the two of them together were just unstoppable. Yes, it caused a lot of stress on the operators, but it was also ensuring the time they had spent developing this product and this brand was going to be taken seriously by their business partners. But I think Collierville, Tennessee, 1981, came to Greensboro in 1984 in Four Seasons Mall when there was only 2 levels. And I remember as a 5-year-old walking around with Mr. Corey in the 3rd level when it was just sticks and drywall. And my dad saying, "Put Chick-fil-A on the 3rd floor of this mall." And I don't know why I just have that visual, but that was, where it got started up in Four Seasons. And,
Somebody online.
So one of the mindsets we talk about is people over profits. This is not original to Chick-fil-A, but at the same time, it is a mindset that continues on to this day. If you take care of your people, the profits will follow. And it was just a company I worked with in Greensboro years ago. I still have high respect for them, but just saw them yesterday and said, Homenstead Senior Care, Patty and Lee Aiken, just loved working with them. They had the same mindset and have been incredible at, people over profits. If you're pouring into your people, the profits will follow. I also watched the reverse of this in a prior company, and it is so true when it's all about the profits. I guarantee you those people aren't being cared for, and it's not sustainable. Focusing on your people, the profits will follow. So before you play this, I do want to tell about this video. It was made for our training. Every life has a story, but I talk about this with our teams. We try to do a vision walk as much as possible with our new folks. We walk around the property of the business and talk through our vision, mission, values, and talk about every life has a story. And I know at our Pisgah Church location, we're really close to the hospital, and people are coming through all the time with hospital bracelets on. And when you're talking with a 16, 17-year-old about why was this person rude or mean or just, so upset they got pickles on their sandwich, they wanted to pickle. It's like, you have no idea what they just left. If they left the hospital, were they leaving a birth? Are they super excited, or did they go a death, a cancer diagnosis? No telling what they just left. The attorney's office, different things where it's like, hey, they might have just gotten the worst news of their life or the best news of their life, and now they're walking in our restaurant wanting a Chick-fil-A meal. And we have the opportunity to either serve them in their pain and walk with them, or change the trajectory of their day. And I can't tell you the amount of people that have said, even during COVID, the one time they would leave the house all day, which I can't imagine this, but they would say, I would come to the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I'll be like, I can't fathom that, because I'm working there all the time. But it's like they would come through, and that was their one time they saw people all day long. And we got the opportunity, the privilege to serve them in that. And then they would go home, and they would come back the next day. And I just kept telling our staff, I'm like, y'all, we have the opportunity this day, that this is the one time they are getting out and they're coming to our restaurant. We cannot not take that seriously. And so when we talk about every life has a story, is that everyone, every soul, every person matters, are valuable, and we get to interact with that every day. And so when I talk with our teams about just remember this every day when you're interacting with people. If somebody gets mad at you, you've got to consider, maybe they're mad at Chick-fil-A, maybe they're mad at something else, but just don't take it personally. We say have a short memory, because one car will tell us we're the worst restaurant in Greensboro, and the next car comes through and goes, this is the best place I've ever had. And I'm like, can you tell that person that? But go ahead and play this. And we'll keep it. I absolutely love showing that video, and I'm glad they begin to also incorporate the staff, because as much as we realize we're serving guests every day and there's a story, the staff that we work with comes in every day with life just mess, myself included. I mean, we're all just walking through this life together and, you know, holding on to so many things. And I have the privilege to steward that talent every day. And I cannot forget that. There are times I just get mad. I'm like, why can you not make the sandwich right? but at the same, people are fighting and I'm like, you're 50 years old and you're talking about somebody that looked at you the wrong way. I'm like, we addressed that in high school. Like, but I think through the dynamics and the people stuff, and realizing that every day we get the opportunity to serve folks. And when it talks about hospitality, reaching out in service to others and using what we've been given to meet a need in their life. And I can't tell you the amount of times we've had even short-lived tenures of our staff that come through that they'll talk about, I remember this, I remember this situation or this thing I went through at Brassfield. And I've got a guy at church who is now a pharmacist. He used to scoop fries at Brassfield. And we talk about, he says, man, I still to this day think of times and think of lessons I learned in that kitchen at this little tiny restaurant, but thinking through how he now applies that in his medical profession. And so I can get bogged down and get stressed out and say, oh man, what do we do in a restaurant? But I also have to remember we're dealing with people and hearts and souls. And it's just, I get a brief moment in time to steward that talent. And I just have to take that seriously every day. And I tell our teams the same thing. You don't know what impact you're going to have with somebody you're working next to. Good enough is our Goliath. And we talked about, I've told my teams in the past that the Goliath that we face every day on our hill is good enough. And we can sit there and say, we've had amazing success. I've got great people. Our culture's great. We've had this metric and that and this product. But getting to good enough is the giant we face every day. We can never rest. We have to keep pushing and say, how can we do it better? How can we do this better? How can we hire better? How can we, serve better? And just thinking through, never resting on good enough. And, somebody who's in high school might not, get this concept well as we talk about through, but I talk about finishing school well, working with our families well, like facing that fact every day that we've got to keep pushing and growing and developing every day. And when we think about, well, we're good enough, we're Chick-fil-A, we've got billions in sales, we've got this great product and everything. All it takes is one instance of something in business going. And we cannot take that for granted. And, yes, the selection process in Chick-fil-A is awful and it's grueling, but at the same time, it just shows how serious they take the next generation of operators, the next generation of staff, and the amount of information we receive every day on what to look for in hiring, what to look for in food safety, what to look for, just keeping the teams aware of, we have got to be providing excellence every day in all we do, and never forgetting we can't just rest at good enough. We've got to be great every day as we open our eyes and we wake up in the morning. Let's go be great. And that's just one thing I've used in our training about being good enough for our Goliath. Great leaders serve. This was an acronym that Chick-fil-A developed years ago. Actually had it in a book that was written about the company, but just briefly, in looking at great leaders, they see the future, always reinventing themselves, engaging and developing others around them. We talk about having an abundancy mentality versus a scarcity mentality. I even told folks that are amazing that I'm sitting in front of, they're talking about their disgruntled about work, and I'm saying, I would rather you be happy off the payroll than miserable on, because all that breeds is toxicity. If I have any option to keep you, I want to, but I'm not going to force you to stay. And recently had a guy sitting in front of me and he had tears in his eyes. He said, man, I want to go work for Amazon, and this is a great kitchen guy. And I said, look, I want to free you to make that decision. And the funny thing was, he said, I just got this sign today, like I saw an Amazon truck, and I knew. And I was like, bro, there's like 4,000. You just were driving. But I said, okay, that's okay. And he came back 2 weeks later and said, all right, I'm back. And we welcome him with open arms. I don't always do that, but I just said, we wanted to allow him the freedom to do that. And but just in part of that, in the development, we got to find out some more things he was struggling with and work with him in his processes. And now he's doing quality checks on us or for our products. And it's just really cool to watch how just had a brief check in spirit, but then is back in full force. And so we always want to allow that with folks that we know are committed to the business. Reinventing continuously, value results in relationships. I'll be honest with you, in walking in day one, I had to flip the whole leadership team. I knew we had a toxic culture, but starting with the people. And we didn't focus on results at first. I focused on who are the people that I'm going to surround myself around to run this business. We got about 3/4 of the way into the year, and I'm going, man, it's a pretty decent year. And by the end of the year, 2 years in a row, we grew net profit 52% and 46% without focusing on that. And that is not just us having these great business strategies, it's focusing on our people. And so when I looked at the results and I looked at food cost reduction, labor reduction, I mean, even the cost of our phones reduced. There was, uniform costs and all these things, on the business, but focusing on the people first led to these results. And so that's why I always tie that back into, I don't have some great business plan. Yes, I do have a business plan, but I don't have some great thing that makes me unique. It was just, hey man, focusing on the people, make sure you're surrounding yourself with great people and loyal to them and watch the results happen. And embodying the values. All it takes is a moment for that culture to change in your organization. And just, embodying the values. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why should you take it seriously that this brand you're working for, this brand you created or developing, why take it seriously? Because if you're not, as a leader, embodying the values, nobody else will. And taking it so seriously every day that people are watching you, no matter who you are, whether you're the CEO or the janitor, people are watching what you do and your heart in the business. And just embodying those values that you have, committed to at your organization. And maybe you created those values, and maybe you're the one that built that list, but just every day walking in knowing, hey, I'm here to do excellent work. I've been given a gift to wake up this morning and have all my arms and legs working, and I get the opportunity to embody these values at work every day. 2 quick quotes I love. True at Kathy, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. And it is amazing, yes, we do have good food and it's like comfort food. I love it. But at the same time, your people are what matters. That's what's going to drive the business and keep the brand going strong. Jimmy Collins, you better be serving chicken or serving someone who is. And they talk a lot about that at the Sports Center. And we love taking teams to the Sports Center because they feel like rock stars when they walk in. You're talking about a $9 employee, and they have a standing ovation after the morning devotionals on Monday morning at the Sports Center. And they realize how important it is and how serious the Sports Center takes that. And every day they're on the front lines, at the registers, at the iPads, taking orders, driving that volume, and they're appreciated. And so, they always talk about it. There's also another quote that Jimmy had, that there's no cash registers at 5200 Buffington Road. That's where our support center is. And he says, you cannot forget the folks on the front line. You cannot forget who's serving our company. Some key ingredients. I don't know how much time I have left, but okay. But don't tell your friends at McDonald's, this is what we do. But the core 4, we talk about when we're engaging with our guests. And I even look for this in interviews. Eye contact is huge. And sharing a smile, speaking enthusiastically, and staying connected. And so we talk about the core 4 in every interaction. Do we always get this right? No, but this is the mark that we talk about in customer service, and engaging and letting people know we see you, we hear you, we're focused in on this specific interaction. And so the core 4, second mile service, going above and beyond. Yes, it's scripturally based, talking about if somebody asks you to carry their bag 1 mile, take it 2. And just going the extra mile, and we talk about anticipating needs. If I see a mom with 3 kids walking in to the store, there is no question she is stressed. And if we can get that high chair, or we can wipe that table off, we just know that we can help them. And even if we don't hear a thank you, that's okay. We're not there to get thank yous, we're there to serve. And so just going that second mile, going that extra mile to make sure things are clean or done with excellence, and also serving however we can with the needs. Microbursts of hospitality. Talk about this a lot in the drive-through, because in dining in times when people, they're prepared to sit for a little while. They're prepared to be, at the store. But in the drive-through, people want to get it quick. They want to get their order accurate. They want to get quick, and they want to go. But you can still have hospitality in quick little, microbursts we talk about. So if I see somebody that they all have swim suits on, or they have a Carolina shirt on, or whatever it is, we can say, hey man, have fun at the game, or have fun at the water park, or just something where you're acknowledging we see you. And we also talk about the dogs that come through. I don't know what happened with COVID, but everybody drives around with dogs. And so I can't tell you the amount of dogs we see coming through the drive-through. But we got a lady in the restaurant that loves dogs so much, she wags while she's saying hey to the dogs. And so she's known now as the dog lady at Chick-fil-A. But just engaging with folks, just those few seconds that matter, and people keep coming back. And it's almost like they see their friends at Chick-fil-A in the drive-thru, and I'm like, not even friends. But like, it's just, we get the opportunity every day to make connection with folks. And we can do this whether it's dining in or drive-thru, and even if it's small snippets of seconds. And then it's my pleasure to serve you. Actually, I have had a family member who was in this meeting, Horst Schultz from the Ritz-Carlton, had come in to talk to the operators. And Truett was in there, the executives were in there, and Horst start talking about, when people say thank you, you hear all the time, no problem. Or some of the response, you go, why would it be a problem if you're serving somebody or they're thank you? And he said, at Ritz-Carlton, we say, it's my pleasure to serve you. It's my pleasure, talking about the service. And Truett gets up afterwards, and from what I understand, one of his characteristics, when people knew he was about to say something serious, he would stand there and hit his nose with his fingers. And they all knew to pay attention. And he said, from now on, we were not going to say no problem or any other response to thank you. It's my pleasure to serve you. And what's interesting is some folks took that back and immediately implemented in their restaurant. But it took some vision casting and understanding why this matters. And they kind of had to reinforce it at a following operator seminar, but then it spread like wildfire. And once people understood, why are we doing what we're doing? What's our why in Chick-fil-A? Taking pleasure, taking privilege in the service. And so to this day, as much as the volume is crazy, we try to just reinforce that we cannot get away from those values. We cannot get away from those statements. It is our pleasure to serve in the business. We developed this at Brassfield, and this is our vision and mission statement: to be the inspiration in every interaction towards positive impact in our community, inspiring towards impact. In a book I read called The Best Team Wins, talked about every generation, what was the number one thing they wanted in their work. And it, money and status and what team and impact. All the generations, number one, impact in their work. And so I said, at Brassfield, why don't we inspire people towards that? Whether it's guest or team, we can be an inspiration. As simple as it is with a chicken sandwich and a smile, we can help inspire people towards impact. And achieving success by consistently refreshing our guest and team operating as a center of excellence. And just a brief story on this. I was driving through Charlotte during training days, and it was 5:30 in the morning, headed to the store. I'll never forget, as long as I lived, looking over the city, and they had the Panthers lights on buildings, and it was kind of an overcast morning. I was like, this is a tired and hungry city for something more. And just driving on how it was consistent, refreshing center of excellence just popped in my head. And I was like, oh, I gotta write that down. And at the point in time, the operators training me said, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a mission, nobody's gonna follow you. You have to cast that vision. You have to set the pace for the teams. So walking in that day, I said, these words came into my head, and he said, go with it, man. And to this day, years later, we still talk about that, being consistent and refreshing and providing excellence in all we do. So this is one of the final slides, but just in thinking about our work, our purpose, our why, our story, I've had to tell my story, it seems like 30 times in the process, but everybody wants to know about your story. Where do you come from? What makes you tick? Why do you do what you do? Do you understand your purpose? And if that is something you still don't know, I'd say today, go find it, because it has helped in so many ways when, it's closing time and I'm sitting here as the GM on the fry station because we're short, sweating and just thinking through like, how in the world are we gonna get the store closed or reopened or whatever, and just realizing, why am I doing what I'm doing? And kind of having that gut check. But there are those days where you just have to go, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or I walk in and my wife's like, here's your kids, have fun. And, but why am I doing what I'm doing? Why should I take this so serious? Why do I have a long-term focus on whether it's my family or my work? Why? What's my story? What makes me tick? So this is just a funny video. This guy does not work for Chick-fil-A. He's a comedian, but he made this a few years ago, and I love this video. So play away. That's it for today. I had to condense that, and I apologize, I was a little fast, but I just thank y'all for your time and just allow me to get a little glimpse into Chick-fil-A. Any questions or anything before we wrap up?
I was curious if you brought any applications.
Come on, man, listen. Yeah, hire.
I just want to say that the notion of refreshing your guests is such a key ingredient in your success, I think. Whether it's your cleanliness and your facilities are always spotless and everybody notices that. But just the way that people are treated from the front of the drive-through, the whole experience, you refresh your customers. And I think that's something that people can't ignore as they drive off, that feeling of being well treated.
Thank you.
I see you guys are also servicing each other to your staff, being sensitive to the barcode. You know, maybe where to go, about helping out there. If you don't have that attitude inward in the company, then you tell your people to reject that out, and you feel like, well, it's kind of a lie, that it's not to really do it here. It's just I'm now doing it, and I see that in your organization, and you still will get customer service. You don't have it internally. It's hard to get people to check it.
Yep.
And I'm one of your last minute customers when you have those peach milkshakes because in the evening, but about 10 till 10 at night, I got in at 6. I run there at the last minute, and I compliment these folks on a regular basis because it's getting close to closing time, and they still have the smile. And here's your 2 milkshakes. You only see one person in the car. So, no, but they still are smiling at the end of the day. And I thought that really means a lot because I know I've been that phone and you're still delivering that phone.
Yeah.
So,
Chick-fil-A did change their vision statement this past 1-2 years to be the world's most caring company by winning hearts every day. And even with COVID and the dining room closed, we said, we might not be able to serve guests in the dining room right now, but why don't we do it with our staff? Why don't we go win their hearts? Because that's going to be reflected. If they feel loved and they feel cared for, seen and heard, they're going to do that with our guests. So, absolutely.
Yeah, not only with my current company, but the predecessor as well. When we focus on service excellence, Chick-fil-A and Disney are the 2 examples. And that's probably true with a lot of them. I know you mentioned Rich Carl. They come up as a third every now, but it's always Chick-fil-A and Disney at the 2 top. That's I got to say congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got 382-4323. 432.
Have a good weekend. Who wants